Hello, everybody. How are you today? I know sometimes after you eat, you start feeling a little lethargic, so I want you guys to kind of just move your arms a little bit, wake up, because we're going to be talking about something that I think we all think is pretty important, right? And that is the other B word, right? The B word. We know the other one that is commonly used, but we're talking about another B word today, right? And that one is bossy. So, you know, we hear it a lot, and I want to ask you a question. How many of you, by show of hands, have ever been called bossy? Either in front of your face, behind your back, whispered. Right. Probably every woman in this room. And then here's another question. How many of you have thought of yourselves as being bossy? Yeah, I'm a little bossy. Okay? So today what we're going to do is talk about the B word, but we're also going to implement some good B words, some positive B words to describe ourselves. So often we focus on what not to do, and not enough times we focus on what we should be doing or how we should focus on ourselves. When I was in school getting my advanced degree in training and development, I once had a teacher or professor, and he left a lasting impression on me. He was telling his story about how when he was learning to ride a bike, how his mom said to him, stay on the sidewalk. She didn't say, don't get on the grass. She said, stay on the sidewalk. So guess what he did? He stayed on the sidewalk. How many times when we tell ourselves not to do something, we end up doing that very thing? How many times have you said, I'm not going to be bossy? And you end up being bossy? Right? But we all know, too, that word has a negative connotation. In fact, by definition, if we look up the word bossy, which I did, bossy is domineering, giving people direct orders, over authoritative. Domineering, like, you, go do that. Bossy. So there's nothing really positive about that, right? However, boss means a person in charge, even seen as excellent and outstanding, doing superior work. It's amazing to me how if you just drop one syllable, boss to bossy, how the dynamics of that word totally changes. And not often is that word bossy attached to males, right? How many times do you hear somebody say, oh, he's so bossy? But we hear many times that described as us for women. Now, I want to say, in no way is this male bashing, because sometimes people think when you get in a room full of women, that's what we do. Well, I'm here to put the record straight. That's not what we do. We're too busy for that. Another B word, right? We don't have time for that. Because we respect men who earn it. Many of us are married to men, or we have very important men in our lives. So we respect what they've done to become boss. So this is not about that. This is about just basically learning what it means and defining or redefining ourselves. Okay? So, people don't follow bosses. They follow leaders. So I want to break it down even more, because many times we have what we call good bosses, but those aren't really the people that give us those lasting impressions. Thinking back to just a week ago, we had MLK Day, right? Well, nobody says that Martin Luther King was a great boss. They never say he was so bossy. Even today, 50 years later, what is he most known for? His leadership, how he led the people, how he led the movement. There's a movie out right now, Selma, that is about how he led the movement for voting, for civil rights. So I want us to kind of think differently about that word and not really strive to be a boss, but strive to be a good leader, because that's who people follow. You never heard anybody say, I want to follow that boss, or I appreciate his bossy or her bossy skills. I appreciate his or her leadership skills, leadership ability. So that's what we want to focus on today. How many times are women who are seeking equal anything, equal rights, equal pay, How many times are we labeled? Always. Always. If any of you watched the State of the Union address the other night, doesn't matter your political affiliation, Democrat, Republican, Independent, but one of the things that stood out for me when President Obama said, it's 2015, people. It's time for equal pay for women. I think what he really wanted to say was, it's 2015, fellas. Because we all know it's not women that's holding it back, right? We're not pulling the pay strings and saying, you know what, we're not worth being paid equally. So that's just my idea about it. Okay. Here are some facts. Women represent 50% of the U.S. population, but less than 20% of leadership roles. 50% of the U.S. population, but less than 20% of leadership roles. So let that marinate for a minute. So what is that saying? There's a huge imbalance there, right? Another fact, 19%, they represent 19% of U.S. Congress. Now we see that changing. We see some women in the political fields and in Congress and making some changes, but still only 19%. 17% of board seats, you got to have a seat at the table. If we're going to see a difference, if we're going to see some of those labels dissipate, then women have to have a seat at the table. And here, when you have a seat at the table, do you know where we tend to sit when we have a seat at the table? Who can tell me? Raise your hand. Yes.
The setter is the secretary, the note taker.
Exactly. So we have to change that to a leadership role, not just taking notes. That was very good. Thank you. I thought I was going to have to say, but thank you. So we have to have a seat at the table where we can make decisions, where we can go back to the definition where it says a person in charge. We're sitting there because we're in charge. We're running the meeting. We're making the decisions. That doesn't make us bossy. It makes us boss. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? All right. So I want to tell you a little story. When a little boy asserts himself, he's called a leader. Yet when a little girl does the same thing, she's called what? Bossy. So words like bossy send a message to young girls. They say, don't raise your hand, sit in the corner. How many of you seen the movie, I think it was with Patrick Swayze, I think it was Dirty Dancing? And nobody puts baby in the corner. Right? But that's what girls are groomed to sit and let the man kind of take over. Let the boys, I mean, how many times have you sat at a table in middle school and you knew you could do the project better, or you knew you had something to contribute, but you didn't say anything. You let the boy take the lead. And how many times did that boy sit back and go, duh? And then you ended up, because of your contribution, kind of leading it anyway, right? So you don't necessarily have to have the title as boss to be the leader. So that's also what I want to kind of get in the messages. Don't get so wrapped up in being the boss per se. Because another movie I like to reference is My Big Fat Greek Wedding. And you guys know that one, right? So what does Tula say? The woman is the neck. So for you guys who didn't hear that, she says, the man may be the head, but the woman is the neck, and she can turn it anywhere she wants. So it doesn't matter if the man or the boss is the person who is making decisions. You can be the neck. And I'm going to give you some examples of people who are the neck. So Michelle Obama. We know she is a powerful woman in her own right. Her husband has the most powerful role in the United States. He's the brain. He's the head. How many of you believe Michelle Obama may be the neck? I think sometimes maybe he's talking to Michelle going, honey, what do you think? So that's another example of being the leader and knowing who you are. And also brings me to another B word that I've been talking about, is the brains, brainy. So if you're the head and you're leading the people, then you are brainy. There are other B words that we can assign to ourselves: brainy, beautiful, bold, blissful. Those are B words that we often don't think of. We spend so much time going, I'm not bossy, I'm not bossy, I'm not bossy. Same as when the story I was telling you about the professor when he said, stay on the sidewalk, instead of just saying, I am. I am bold. I am brave. And then that word bossy just dissipates. It automatically disappears. So we don't have to spend a lot of time defending ourselves. Just embrace who we are and what we bring to the table. The other thing I want to talk about is, and I really wanted to show you guys this video, but this room doesn't have the capacity, but I saw a video when I went to TEDx conference a little while ago, and there was a video, Goldie was there, and it was done by Pantene, but they talked about the different names that get assigned to women in the same role as a man. So if a man is staying at work late, he is seen as dedicated. If a woman is staying home or staying late, she is seen as selfish. Why isn't she home making pancakes? If a man is seen dressing nice, he's matching and he's got his shoes tied. I shouldn't say that. That sounds... But he's seen as smooth. If a woman is stepping out in bold colors like I chose today, see, bold, did you notice that B word? She's seen as a show-off. If a woman is in the front of a room and giving a presentation, if a man is doing that, he's seen as persuasive. What do you think a woman is seen as if she's doing the very same thing? Who can give me what they think? Raise your hand. Pushy. Same role, and I loved it because it was the power of the visual that showed you the women and the men in the exact same role, but seen as being completely different. So that is my idea of we have to change how we see ourselves so that we don't attach ourselves to what is perceived, because that's who you become. That's who you identify yourself with. And that's what we need to work on. The other thing I wanted to do is I want to take a few minutes and I want to pass out a few cards, and I think I have enough. I'm just going to have it face down, and after I pass it out to everybody, I want you to flip it over, and we're going to do like an I am exercise, because I am are two of the most powerful words for what you put after them shapes your reality. So you're going to start with I am, and then we're going to read what's on the card. And it's not going to be individual, it's going to be individual tables. You guys follow me? That makes sense? All right, so I'm going to put it this table. I'm just going to put it down, and I don't want you to flip it over until I ask you to, please. She's like, okay, she's bossy. I'm kidding. All right. Okay, I think I have enough. I was hoping I did. Oh, look at that. How divine is that? The last one. So, what we talked about, what we learned, I just want to kind of go over it a little bit and just say, it's not about being bossy. It's not about being the boss, because every woman in this room has shown herself to be the boss. You wouldn't be here if you weren't. You've already started your own business. You stand in front of people every time we get together. You tell them who you are. You say, I am. This is what I do. So the goal is to not attach yourself to the negative connotation of what the boss looks like, how the boss behaves. We can change the dynamics of that by what we call ourselves. You can't change other people. You never will be. People are going to say what they want to say. They're going to call you the other B word occasionally. That doesn't mean you have to walk like it, act like it, talk like it, right? So that's the idea and that's the goal. And with that, I want to ask each of you to flip over your cards, please. And I want you to just take a couple seconds to choose some representative from your table. and you will read it for the whole table, but you will use the statement I am and whatever's on that card. And I'll read the last one, or we'll read the last one together. Does that sound like a plan? Everybody got me? All right. We're going to start. We're going to go this way. We're going to go that way. Work ourselves around. No, you're just saying I am and then that. So are we ready? We're going to start with this table right here. So whoever's the representative, you're saying I am the
best.
Good. But we want to have one representative from the table. That's okay.
I wanted all of them to feel like
You represent all of them. Or whomever.
okay.
All right, so the next table, just somebody stand up and just say what that card says.
I am balance.
All right, thank you. Next.
So I'm writing all these down.
I am blessed.
All right.
I am bright.
Did everybody hear her?
Bright.
Can you say that again like you mean it? Okay.
I am blissful.
Okay. Back there.
I am bold.
All right. Right here.
I am beautiful.
All right. I like that.
I am brave.
This table.
I am brilliant.
I am brilliant.
I am brainy.
And this one we're going to say all together. Oh, no. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I am broad-minded.
And this one you can see. Everybody see this one? Can we all say this one together? I am boss. All right. Thank you. That's it.